Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Sisters Royale, the spiritual successor to the Castle of Shikigami series. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Alpha Systems, Sisters Royale is a title that originally released for the Nintendo Switch in Japan in June of 2018, and I originally reviewed it then. Now, at the end of January 2020, it's available for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4 worldwide, and there's been mention of an Xbox One and PC release in the future. So today we'll mainly be looking at the DLC character, which is available, although at the time of this recording, the DLC character is not available on the North American PSN, just as a heads up. But we'll mainly be focusing on the DLC character. So, right off the bat, I can say if you're a fan of the Castle of Shikigami series, this is a title that I can recommend you check out, as it's very, very similar to that series and those systems. Although, maybe not quite the breadth that the Castle of Shikigami series has after 3 game releases. So, here we find ourselves at the main menu. So, one of my major complaints about Sisters Royale when I originally reviewed the Japanese release was there was no online leaderboard. Since then, that's something that's been rectified. So, there's an online leaderboard, that's something that's awesome. So you can definitely compete for scores now against your friends and try and get to the top of the leaderboard. There's also some other oddities here that seems like the game is still kind of in an incomplete phase. There's some features they look like they're planning on adding but just haven't been added yet. We go to play, which will take us to game start. We can also do a practice, which you can practice specific stages or specific sections of a stage. Really great for fine-tuning your gameplay in a bullet hell game. So there's a fair bit of story here, but we're going to skip over that for the most part. I'll go over a little bit of the story here in a little bit, but if you're interested in the other characters, then you can check out my original review of the Japanese version where I go into more depth about the different characters. But we still have the 5 sisters who come in the base game: Sanai, Selma, Eiji, Nur, and Lade, who are all, well, sisters that don't get along. And that's kind of the core of the story. And then we have the DLC character. In the Japanese version, the DLC character's name is Oz. In the English version, it's Ode. I'm this world's savior. I'm here to intervene a little. Once you select your character, you can take into the difficulty, easy, normal, and hard. And then we get more story. So the story is enjoyable to read. Some of it's amusing, some of it's fun, and well, especially being translated into English. If you're not a Japanese speaker / reader, it's definitely more enjoyable that way. So, Sisters Royale, in the vein of games like Castle of Shikigami, is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. We have 2 primary forms of attack. Our shot, which does have 2 modes, normal and power shot, and we also have our summon, and each character has their own different versions of that. For Ode here, her summon is this reticule, which delivers a really powerful lightning attack, but one big drawback is you're actually pinned to the location where you start moving that reticule, so you have to be careful where you're using that particular attack. It is powerful, and there's some great scoring mechanics to be had when you're using your summoned attack, so that's something to keep in mind. So right off the bat, Ode can be considered one that's a little bit more of a challenging character, and you're probably not going to be setting super high scores with her. Her main shot is a really powerful straight shot, but it has the ability to sweep. If you move left or if you move right, you'll sweep your stream left or right, and it actually kind of like balances in that section. So really powerful to deal like fast damage, and you actually have quite a bit of flexibility with this particular character. The third way of attacking we have is the bomb, and for Ode's bomb here, it's pretty standard where it's clears the screen, and we get some light lances that strafe the screen, and then bombs that will follow up. So now that we're fighting the first boss, Sanai, let's talk a little bit about the power shot I mentioned earlier. So the game itself has what's called the tension bonus system. So right now, there's an aura around our character, and that's green. The closer we get to an enemy, in this case the boss, or an enemy's shots, that aura will change to red. And that aura is both our multiplier as well as the strength of our shots. The higher it gets, the more damage we'll do. So if we're at maximum multiplier times 8, we're also dealing the most damage. And that's when the power shot is engaged. So the higher the risk, the more your reward, basically. And especially at higher multipliers, at higher tension, if you're using your summon shot, you'll get a ton of coins, which are one of the core mechanics behind the scoring. A coin starts out at 100 points, and as you progress, there's both a multiplier being applied to it, as well as you see our coins are being totaled. If you get up to 1,000 coins, you'll be at a 10,000 point value for your coins. Each time you collect one, they increase the value by 10. And it's that scoring mechanism, that whole tension system with the coins, the high risk, the high reward, that I really like about this game. However, like I said, it just makes it a little bit tricky to use the summon with Ode because of the stationary nature when you start using it. There is also, you might occasionally notice the times when the score goes rainbow and it's a ×2, there are hidden fairies throughout the course of the stage that you can uncover by shooting or using a bomb in that section. And if you uncover those fairies, you'll get double points for like some huge point values. One thing that's important to note about the points as well is as the game progresses, if you'll note in the bottom left, so the game uses a life system as well as your like bombs, and you might notice that one of the lives and one of the bombs are partially shaded in. The more points you accrue, you're actually earning additional lives and additional bombs. So you want to keep like those multipliers high and get as many points as you can, so you can get additional lives and additional bombs. So that's basically it for the mechanics. So as far as the story is concerned, the base story, so you've got the 5 sisters who are competing over a love interest. So they each view each other as rivals. So we find ourselves fighting the second sister, Selma here. And each sister is, well, they basically got together to decide to have this competition to see who would ultimately be able to date and marry this angel, Yashin. There was a prophecy in which they were supposed to save the world from this great evil Satan, but because they don't get along as sisters, that's not going to happen. They're only together to fight this competition. Enter character Ode. Ode is actually a character from another world, which is actually where the fun part to the tie-in to the Castle of Shikigami comes into play. So she's actually a character from that series. If you're familiar with Castle of Shikigami, you might have already figured out, as the playstyle is very similar between her Castle of Shikigami appearance and her appearance in Sisters Royale, at least her main shot anyway. So that like a fun little homage, tip of the hat to their previous franchise is one that I definitely appreciate. but she's basically going through and has this really interesting like outsiders like view on all these events that are going on, and she has her own reasons for being here as well. So I appreciate that they were able to fit her story in as well as they were able to, despite the fact that she's not a part of this world by default. Let's see if I can get some good points out of that boss. As far as price point is concerned, I really feel like they priced her DLC at a very appropriate spot. So it's $2.99 US, and the game itself releases at $13.99. So the 5 base characters are basically coming in at about $2 and change, just about $3. So to have the DLC character be priced at about an equivalent price point is really welcome, and it's nice to see balanced pricing being used here. So kudos to both Alpha System and Chorus Worldwide, the publisher of the title outside of Japan, for getting like that part right. So we've basically gone over the main gameplay mechanics, and I've gone over some of my thoughts of the character. So she's definitely a fun one as far as a story standpoint, and she's powerful but more advanced to use, as her summon just makes it kind of difficult to be able to get that particular shot in. So as far as my minus flavors are concerned, the biggest one I still have is that now that they fixed the problem with the online leaderboards, is your stage order is always the same, and that the same goes for Ode as well. She goes through the same stage order that all the sisters do. So I wish there was a little more variance to the stage orders, just like shuffling the stages so you're not always playing through them in the same order. I know that might change some of the way the story has to be portrayed, but still, the same thing over and over again does get a little repetitive. But on the plus flavor side, I do appreciate the new story and how she's incorporated into the story, especially with the other characters, and also kind of that Easter egg that she's from the other franchise that Alpha System has. And then the big plus flavor, the thing I enjoy the most about this game, is just the scoring mechanics that you have present. That whole like high risk, high reward tension bonus system is the kind of thing that I enjoy. I might not be good at these games, but I have fun with them when I sit down and play them, trying to get the best score possible. I do also appreciate the art that is present, even though there's some like reused assets and the stages themselves are relatively plain. Some of the characters are well, rather, some of the main enemies are just like fun and enjoyable. The mid bosses just being cubes is a little bit like redundant, but yeah. And I also do enjoy the soundtrack as well. That's something that I've like definitely come to appreciate. So, especially if you're a fan of the Castle of Shikigami series and Alpha System, then this is a title that I recommend you pick up, or at the very least, give a look at. And outside of that, if you're a fan of vertical scrolling bullet hells, this is also one that I feel might be worth your time. It's not the most challenging or original bullet hell, but it's still a fun title to dabble with, especially given the depth the scoring mechanics do have. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.